On this video, we're going to do a full breakdown of The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. Now, at the end of this video, I'm also going to talk about one of the key concepts inside of this book that if you don't utilize this principle, that it's actually going to be making things a lot more challenging for you. What's up, guys? My name is Nico Rapkulis. As mentioned, we're going to be talking all about this book. I'm going to talk about the 3 life-changing principles that I got from this book and how you can start applying this into your life so that you can experience more joy, more enthusiasm, more happiness, and all of the abundance that you truly desire. So let's dive right in. Number 1 is that we are not our thoughts. Okay, then this is one that took me a while to figure out. It's something that I get to continue to remind myself that we are not our thoughts. Okay, you have these thoughts come in like, I should have said something to that person, right? Oh, why did I lash out at that person? Or why am I thinking about this? All those like incessant thoughts. Think about it even as you're listening to this video. You're hearing the sound of my voice and you're like, well, what's this guy saying? What's going on with this shirt? What's the thing in this bag? Like, those are not your thoughts, right? Who are you actually? Who's saying those thoughts? It's kind of a wild question and thought to think about, like, who is those thoughts? Well, I think that's an important question for sure. But I think more importantly, the question really is like, how can I continue to step into becoming more and more aware of being the fact that I am the observer of those thoughts? Okay, I am the observer of those thoughts, because the way that I love that how Michael A. Singer explains this is that your thoughts are just like your noisy roommates, right? And in a second, I'm going to share with you exactly another book that he created and wrote, and I want to explain why this is really important and why I take so much from this book and I treat it as he knows what he's talking about. Because Michael A. Singer, okay, he wrote another book, and we did a review, an overview, and a summary on this book. It's called The Surrender Experiment. So if you have not watched that, I would strongly recommend that you do. But the reason that I trust what he says so much is he's not just this woo-woo guy, right? He's not just this guy that meditated and wrote a book, right? He's actually the guy that created WebMD. So if you ever woke up in the middle of the night and wondering, why does my back hurt? Or why do I have this lump? Or what's this bruise? And you searched it on WebMD, that's his company, right? And he's worth a lot of money, and he's sold companies, built companies. It's just a wild story. So the Surrender Experiment just showed how he started just meditating all the time and then turned into this business mogul, and he all did it from the place of surrender and observing his thoughts. And that's why I wanted to illustrate that point, is because it's so important to remember and realize that we are the observer of our thoughts. I think about it as like, how can I continue to look at myself and take the perspective that I am just the guy like observing myself. Even like last night when I was out on a walk, right? I just imagined myself that I was like a drone hovering over myself on this walk. I was reading a book and I was like, how can I just observe myself? And I'm like, look at that silly guy walking, reading a book. Like, what's that guy doing? And all those thoughts that are coming in, and it's just like being the observer. And the more that you are the observer, and the more that you are aware of what's going on, the more peace, the more joy, the enthusiasm that you're going to have. And that's what he talks about, is that like, that's really the point of life, is having more joy, more enthusiasm, more love. And so in a second, I'm going to tell you about what can really help you with having more experience of joy, more passion, more enthusiasm, more love. Okay, I'll explain that here in a second, but I want to get to the second principle that I want to talk about here about this book. And I thought this one was really interesting. Right, it's talking about thorns. Now I want you to imagine, for whatever reason, I had this thought in my mind, because when I used to play baseball back in college, and our coach would have us run, he was trying to make us mad and trying to get someone to quit. It was a really interesting conversation. But point is that we actually had this thought when I was, in that period of time, is that when we were upsetting our coach so much, it was like we were a little rock in his shoe, and he was walking around, and he just, every time he stepped, he like felt that rock, and we always kind of felt like that's who we were to our coach, and we were just so irritated to our coach, and because of that, that's why he made us run. He was trying to get us to quit, right? And so you can even think about that. Yes, it's a funny little story, but think about that as like, it's not only just a rock, but what if that rock actually got like punctured into his toe, right? Or even a thorn, right? And then instead of like just going to that thorn and pulling it out, he puts like a wrap around his toe. And then he puts like this special shoe on. And then he, puts in and makes sure that he's not like stepping as much on that shoe. And he just like, holds his heel up, or holds his toes up instead of like stepping down on his toes, to avoid getting to feel that, right? That seems kind of ridiculous, right? To build this whole contraption and put it basically contain yourself from actually feeling that sting, right? That wouldn't make much sense at all. That doesn't make any sense, right? But that's exactly what we're doing with our thorns that we're experiencing, our traumas, or the things that we've experienced, the broken hearts, right? We put this structure around it to make sure that we're not getting hit, we're not poking around, like people can't touch it, and we're creating this boundary around it and this cage around it, which, yes, of course, it's not letting us get hurt again, it's not letting us feel that again. But one of the most beautiful things about life is to feel, right? That's the beauty of life, is to feel. And so instead of covering these thorns, it's more about just pulling those thorns out, really addressing and looking at those thorns, those traumas, those heartbreaks, whatever it is that's coming in your life that you're not extremely happy with, rather than building this protective device around it to make sure that you don't feel that pain. It's all about removing that pain. The only way that you can remove that pain is if you actually walk into that pain, you actually address that pain, you actually honor that pain, and you're observant and you're aware of that pain. You pull that thorn out. And that's really one of the second biggest concepts that I got from this book, is to just address those things, be aware. The more that you can step back and be the observer, that's when you can be aware of those thorns, and therefore you're pulling them out. And on that note, I think that transitions perfectly into our third step of how to really experience more joy, more love, more enthusiasm, more fulfillment, which is really what life is all about. So how the heck do you actually do that? Well, you keep open, right? Think about this, like everything is energy. But that's an interesting concept. Like, what does that even mean? And that's what Michael even talks about, is like this internal energy. Every time you have a thought, it takes energy. Every time you block a thought, every time you have an emotion, that takes energy. Every time you have something that's going on internally, it takes energy. And that's why you can be physically and emotionally drained sometimes, even when you are eating right? But if you're emotionally drained, then it's you're not feeling good, and then you're not having that joy, you're not having that love, that enthusiasm that we're all about, right? That's what makes life so amazing. Because think about it. What was a time when you got broken up with and you just felt no energy and you're just in so much pain, and then that person, as he is illustrated, that person calls you back and says, I want you back. Like, you're immediately perked up, everything's amazing again, and you have so much energy, right? So what shifted? It was all internal. So how do we actually keep that energy? And it's all about keeping that energy flowing, right? And the way that you keep that energy flowing is you stay open. You don't close your energy. You don't close when you have those thorns that come in. You don't close them up. You stay open to everything, attached to nothing. And the more that you can adopt that principle and just keep that type of energy, that's what's actually going to materialize and manifest inside of your life. And you're going to start experiencing the joy, the enthusiasm, the love. So no matter if your heart is broken, it's about keeping that open. And this is just such a lesson for me right now, and why I wanted to make this video, and why I wanted to read this book again. I've read this a few times before, but I wanted to read it again, and I want to talk about a hack that I have for reading these books to retain it even more. I'll talk about that here in a second. But that's why this book is so important to me right now, is because I feel like I've constricted a little bit. My heart has constricted a little bit. And your heart is truly your energy center. If your heart is closed, it's going to close off everything else to you. So the more that you can open up your heart and let that energy flow, and choose to stay open, attached to nothing, the more that you're going to experience that love, that joy, that enthusiasm that everyone is after, right? How many times when you are in love with life, you have enthusiasm, you have joy, you have passion, that's when life is amazing. So why wouldn't we continue to operate in that stance all the time, right? So it's all about staying open. No matter how many times you get hurt, it's all about staying open, because that's the beauty and that's the experience of life. Now, as mentioned, I want to talk about one of the best ways to read this book, and that is you get the physical copy. So I strongly recommend that. Always good to have a dollar bill as a bookmark. Remind you that the world is full of abundance. But then I also listen to the audiobook on Spotify. And if you have a premium account, you can listen to this book. You can speed it up, and so you do both, so you actually retain it even further. And that's a little hack that I always like doing that helps me retain, helps me go even a little bit quicker, helps me really understand this principle. And then it's always really good to share it with somebody. That's why I make these videos as well. I like to share it with you guys so that you can understand what I'm pulling away from these books. So again, like I mentioned in the beginning, this is the one thing that's going to continue to keep you away from joy, enthusiasm, love is closing off, okay? Feeling constricted, right? So notice your body. When it constricts, you're closing off your energy. When it opens up, I can even feel it right there, is that like you're open to everything attached to nothing. And the more that you can adopt that, the more that you're going to actually experience the joy, the enthusiasm, the love that you really, really want. Okay, so I've been thinking about making a second part to this, because that's kind of like the first half of this book, and I wanted to share kind of my downloads and experiences with this book and how I've applied it even further on the back half of this book. So if you want me to make a part 2 about this book, I strongly recommend. I also strongly recommend that you listen to my overview of the Dr. Joe Dispenza Becoming Supernatural book. You can find that link down in the video description. It'll be on the first comment. Make sure and listen to that, because that kind of incorporates everything that's in this book, but also helps you understand the science behind it. Once I started understanding the science behind it, I think that's really the missing piece. Like, this book is absolutely amazing, but once you understand the science behind it, that's when everything like clicked over for me. So I strongly recommend that you go watch that video right now. A lot of people like it. It's one of my most popular videos on this channel. It's the reason why most people subscribe to this channel as of right now. So it's strongly recommend you can go look at the first link in the, it'll be the first comment. Click on that, go watch that video. It's a really powerful video. I've done other videos on the Joe Dispenza stuff. And then the last thing I was gonna say, we're on this mission right now to build 20,000 magnetic manifestors so that they can experience more joy, more enthusiasm, more love in a very systematic approach. On top of that, we actually have a community where we go live every single week, okay? And you can be a part of this conversation. We bring people on to talk about it. You can ask questions. And so if you're interested in that, you want more of a community, you want to be part of something, you want to actually manifest your dreams, then I strongly recommend that you go check out this video, because I'll explain exactly what that's all about, and we can give you direct access. Thank you for watching this video. Appreciate you. My name is Nico, and we'll talk to you on the next one.